What are you gonna do with your life? Said by every parent, teacher, and relative ever. Feeling behind is such a common but unique experience. It's something I feel like everyone experiences at some point in their lives, but it's unique in the sense that there's so many different reasons to feel behind. Whether it's something like money or a job, relationships, maybe just general life happiness. It's unique in the sense that although people can relate to you, it's still something only you can feel in the way that you do feel it. I think I felt behind in life in a lot of different ways. Of course, money is always one of the bigger things. More money is always nice. It'd be great to be rich. But I think I've always felt behind when it comes to just having friends and having big friend groups. Sometimes I'll just see people hanging out, and they'll be like around my age, and I'll just wonder where I kind of went wrong, or maybe where I didn't do something I was supposed to do, to kind of be able to have that as well. And that kind of makes me feel behind. And of course there's other aspects of life too, but I think not having this big friend group, or really any friend group that seems like everyone else has, kind of gets to me sometimes. It's one thing to compare on social media, right? Because I feel like as bad as social media is for our brain and our just mental well-being, it's become this thing that we're warned about constantly. Like parents and teachers will often tell you that, things on social media aren't real. And, they're pretty much right? Most of it's a very exaggerated version of people's lives. And it's almost become this thing where we're almost kind of desensitized to it. And not in the way that it doesn't affect us, but in the way that we know it's fake, right? We know it's probably a highlight reel of their lives. It's probably not perfect as it's presented. So it doesn't cross our mind throughout our day-to-day as much, right? It's not something I think about too often because of how much we're told it's fake, and I think that's definitely a good thing. But I think feeling behind for me is definitely most common when it comes to peers and people around me, because when you're comparing to people around you, you're kind of on an even playing field, right? When you're comparing to people on social media, these like influencers who are jacked or rich or living these luxurious lives, it's almost a different ball game. It's especially worse if you kind of grew up with these people, or you went to the same high school or middle school as them, and you're watching them succeed in different areas of life that you haven't even really taken a notice to, right? They're getting these job offers, or they look really good, or they're traveling to all these places and doing all these things. It's a more personable feeling, right? Because if you got someone who doesn't know this friend of yours and you kind of showed them their life, they'd probably look at it and they'd probably be like, oh, I kind of wish I could do that, but they wouldn't give a second thought for the most part. But because you know this person and you maybe grew up with them or hung around them, you get hit a lot harder when you kind of see that. And more often than not, it's rarely ever a single person that's kind of making you feel behind. More often than not, it's your parents kind of comparing you to relatives or people they spoke to once, like this person kind of has this already by your age, what have you done? But comparison is some sort of evolutionary trait, I believe. Back in the hunter and gatherer days, you'd kind of have this little farm where you're growing some crops, and you'd like look over and you'd see Jerry. It's definitely not a name they used back then, but you'll see someone with a bigger farm, or like watering their crops in a different way. Maybe they have a better yield, they have more food, and you'd make changes from there. You'd like look at them and be like, wow, they're surviving better than I am. Let me kind of see what they're doing so I can also survive better, right? So it's not inherently bad to compare, but the problem is when you compare constantly and incorrectly, right? Because if you think back to when you were in elementary school and the teacher had you do some sort of task, maybe you'd be doing it wrong or you couldn't figure it out, so you maybe kind of look around you and see what the other kids are doing and how you can do it. And in those situations, that's where comparison helps, right? It's not always going to be bad. Sometimes you have to kind of compare to figure things out. But when you're constantly comparing, or when other people's lives are constantly pushed on you in a way that's unrealistic and doesn't necessarily even make any sense, I think that's when it kind of gets bad. When you're kind of looking at what everyone else has and what you don't have. This might be just the case for me, but I feel like when I compare to other people, I don't imagine myself as them. I imagine myself like inside of them. Pause. Okay, like I imagine myself like kind of living their life as myself, you know? I'd still retain my personality and be the person I am, but I would just kind of like live their life. You know, that's not me though, and it's not you. It's almost like this parallel universe self of you. You know, you're comparing yourself almost to this hypothetical version of you, and it's not a fair comparison because you're comparing yourself to someone who doesn't exist. I don't know if that makes sense. You know, you're the only one that's you, right? You're the only you that exists. It's unfair to kind of compare yourself to a you that doesn't exist, right? Because it's easy to imagine the perfect you, right? Or the you that gets to live out this other person's life. And I think when it comes to feeling behind, we've all heard the common quotes and sayings, you know, like comparison is the thief of joy, and like life isn't a race, you know, it's a marathon. And I don't know about anyone else, but those quotes feel kind of tacky, you know? They feel like very 2014-ish quotes that maybe might have inspired you back then, but it's definitely not hitting the same nowadays. It's almost annoying and a little dismissive to hear those things. So I think what might actually be a little hopeful to me, and maybe to you, is the idea that I'm still pretty young, right? And you are too. I think life expectancy for humans is like 80. We kind of have our whole lives ahead of us, you know? It's hard to kind of imagine it, you know? Especially when you're feeling down or you're in like a rut, it's hard to imagine a way out of that feeling when in reality you have like at least 60 years more to go, right? So like at some point you're gonna get out of it. It's really hard to comprehend what life would even be like 2 years into the future. 2 years might not seem like a long time, but so much can change in that amount of time. We have so much life left to live, so it's easy to get hyper fixated on the present, right? Even if you made up in your mind that you're gonna let yourself feel behind constantly or something, you'll wake up and you'll still have to go through life day by day, right? Just because you feel behind right now, there's nothing you can do like in this moment that wouldn't make you feel behind. It's just a cultivation of like actions, you know, and things, you know, things take time to change, right? So if you're gonna feel behind and you're gonna feel bad about it, it's not really gonna do you many favors in the present moment. You know, you've heard the saying like, don't compare your day 1 to someone's day 1,000 or something. It's so oversaid, but it is kind of true in the sense that you can only move the needle so much on a day-by-day basis. So it would be best not to kind of let yourself feel behind when you can only do so much in a single day. Because I feel like feeling behind is a paralyzing feeling, right? It's paradoxical in the way that it forces you to kind of stand still or freezes you, and yet you're still watching everyone kind of run ahead of you. When you don't have that feeling, right? And it's hard to change that, of course, but when you don't have that feeling, it kind of lets you walk forward a little more freely, right? Like I said, it's no different than emotions. It's hard to control emotions as well. You know, you can stop yourself from kind of being mad, but you can't really like stop yourself from being sad in situations where things are sad, right? And feeling behind is almost no different to that, because if you could stop feeling behind, you would, right? And that would apply to like anything in your life. If you could stop feeling bad for whatever reason, you probably would. You know, feeling bad isn't exactly such a fun thing. But I'm not here to be this like self-improvement-esque YouTuber and tell you that, you know, you are behind and you gotta like get your life together or anything. But I'm also not gonna say like, you know, like the world is sunshine and rainbows and that, you know, everything is like perfect or whatnot. You know, if we're being honest, you and I could probably be doing things a bit better, right? We could be doing things a bit differently. And it's like, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm no different than where you are, but I'm not here to make you feel bad about it. We're already aware of it, and I feel like that's a good stepping stone. But I kind of just want to tell you that you're probably overthinking it, right? What's that one quote? It's like, imagination is worse than reality or something like that. Socrates, Plato, one of those people probably said it. I don't mean to be dismissive when I say you're overthinking it, but I kind of just want to kind of ground you. And, you know, you've been through these storms before. You know, life itself is full of challenges, and despite everything that happened, you're still here, right? You've still made it to this point. You know, if we're thinking about it logically, it'd be reasonable to assume that you're gonna continue making it. But it's okay to feel like this, but know that you won't feel like it forever, based off of just that, based off the fact that you're still here. I have it on good authority that you'll probably be okay.